Welcome back to DNA Mobile Gaming. Something awesome came in the mail today. It is the HDMI out port for your Game Boy Advance. I ordered it from AliExpress just to see how long it took, and it took about 3 weeks, which was actually pretty surprising. I ordered it, I think, just after Christmas, and it came today. It is January 12th today, so that's not too bad. It came pretty quick. Surprisingly, with everything going on, I was shocked that it just showed up in the mail. So we're going to do everything in our power to mod one of my Game Boy Advances to get this working and basically do some gameplay and see how it looks on the big screen. So let's go check it out. Alright, so I took this plastic case out of that bubble mailer that you saw at the beginning, and basically what it had inside was 2 screwdrivers and this case. So what's inside the case is something that I've been really excited about. I've been waiting for it for about 3 weeks now from AliExpress, and we're going to mod this Game Boy Advance. It already has its back taken off of it because I have to do a speaker replacement on it at some time, but that's not going to happen today. I'm just going to show you guys the installation process with the default screen that comes in, or the OEM screen that comes in the Game Boy Advance for the HDMI out. So what comes inside, it looks like 2 ribbon cables. This one looks like it's kind of bent. Maybe they pre-bend them, I don't know. So there's that one. And that one, I think they're just basically the same. Let me see. Yeah, they're the same ribbon cable. It's just, I think one's just a backup one, just in case one doesn't work, I'm assuming. And these little plastic ribbon cable holders, I think that might be, hopefully you don't have to install those. Those might be just backup holders. Let's open up the packaging and look inside here. So it looks like the wires are in here, so you're going to need to know a little bit about soldering for this installation if you want to have the audio out. So there's one wire there and another wire with the PCB. And it looks like there's another wire in there as well. So there should only be 2 wires. Maybe they send you extras of everything just in case you need extras. I don't know. So there's 3 wires altogether. Let me double check. So it kind of looks like the length of this wire is longer than the other 2. So I'm assuming that's just an extra wire. So we only need 2 wires for this. So I have my soldering gun preheating right now. And I'm going to put this PCB off to the side as well. Let's put that right there. So I'm going to take out, this doesn't have the IPS screen or anything. This is the original display. So this is just the back. And like I said, I've already taken out the screws. You need the tri-wing screwdriver for the main screws. And then there is a Phillips screwdriver or screw slot here. There's a screwdriver hole here and a screwdriver hole here. So right there and right there for the motherboard, and I have my screws set aside. So the first step you're going to want to do is pop out the ribbon cable from your motherboard. And I've never installed this before, so this is kind of new to me as well. And I'm going to pull the motherboard out ever so gently, and I'm going to put it on top of the foam over there. And the biggest thing I like to do is just take my membranes out, put them off to the side because they kind of get annoying. So let's do all that, and then keep them all organized. So what I'm going to do, because you have to cut some of the plastic right here for the actual PCB to sit in here. I've watched a couple guides, but I know that you have to actually cut that out. So I'm going to actually take out the screen And the way you can do that, an easy way, if you don't have a heat gun, is it looks like it's going to pop right out. I don't think I've taken this screen out before. So if you twist the plastic ever so gently, you can see how the corners kind of raise up there. So I have this plastic spudger tool, and I'm going to get in behind like this, and that came off really easily. I don't think I've ever taken the screen off this one. Maybe I did, but there we go. And just slowly peel it off. Don't ream on it or anything. Just peel it out and set it aside. Put the pad part down, and yeah, you can clean off all the fingerprints if you want to on the inside and the outside. I have a little cloth here. That I'm going to use. I'm just trying to find it. There we go. So I got a little microfiber cloth. All right. And on the outside. So you also want to have what is called Kapton tape if you have anything like that. Basically, Kapton tape is good for holding things down, and it's heat resistant. So this little motherboard, or PCB, has to rest inside here. And as you can see, it does line up with everything on the inside of the plastic, but there's no slot right here. So it has all the slots for the PCB to rest inside. And you can kind of see it there, how they lined it up. So if you line that up ever so nicely, I have a crafting knife that I'm going to actually mark this off with. I'm going to line this up just like this to try to get it as best as I can. And you'll notice it on your end that it's like a puzzle, basically. So if you rest this piece up against there, you should get a general idea of what you need to cut out. So go to the edge of the micro USB port, and without cutting yourself, you can take your craft knife that's really sharp and just basically go back and forth, just like I am on the one side until you get a nice cut, and then do the same thing back and forth until you get a nice cut inside the plastic, because this plastic is pretty brittle and you don't want to put too much force on that. So there's a couple cuts in there, as you can kind of see there. There's a cut on that side and a cut on that side. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take my crafting knife, and you can take an X-Acto knife, something just sharp, and just keep doing this. You can take a Dremel tool. I have a Dremel tool. And if this doesn't cut out very well, I might take my Dremel tool and get a grinder. And yeah, so basically that's going to take a while to cut through that. So I'm going to try to get that little piece notched out there first. So I'm going to use my crafting knife to try to notch that out. So in wood shop, if you want to cut a little square out of something, you can go on an angle with your little saw and go to the one corner, just like I did there. So now I got kind of a notch there, and then I can go like this and cut that out, and then just keep doing that And now I've kind of cut a little bit too much that I didn't want to cut into. So let's line this back up and see how nicely that rests in there. And got a bunch of plastic here. It's going to stick to the adhesive. All right. So let's line this back up. Make sure it's all nice and dandy. So that does look like it's going to line up pretty nice, because you mostly just want to make sure that this outer edge and this outer edge perfectly match. And I'm going to give this a little bit of a notch again. So I might not use my Dremel tool, I'm not sure yet. And just keep following that. Don't press on the PCB. And you can see the cut lines again. So I started making more cut lines down into the plastic. And you have to go all the way down. So you got to go pretty far down here to actually get that PCB right in. I think it has to go like right flush to this piece of plastic right here. And I was just going based off the pictures. Like I said, I ordered this off AliExpress, and I'm going to use maybe the stronger side of the knife. And just keep wiggling that back and forth, because you don't want to scratch the screen or anything. And this is where, like I said, the Dremel tool, which I might revert to very soon because this plastic is pretty strong. But you could just keep going at it. Don't cut yourself. Just go slow. And saw at it. Saw at the plastic. As you see there, it's just kind of cutting out nicely. And you could use a file if you have a file, like a sharp file on hand. Maybe a nail file perhaps, or even just a if you have a metal file of some sort. So I've got quite a bit of plastic cut out already, but I want to make this look a little bit decent. I don't want it to look tacky or anything, and I want it to be as flush as I can possibly get it. And a sharp blade is always helpful. But this method is going to chew away a lot of plastic and give you a lot of plastic shards. You can keep trying to see if that PCB is going to go down, but there is still a lot of plastic that needs to come off for it to rest all the way in there. So as you can see, there's quite a big lip still. If you look at this lip, you want to have it all the way down to here. So I'm just going to mark that off. And I think I'm going to go use my Dremel tool for this. And like I said to you guys, you can use whatever you want to use. It doesn't matter if the hole's too big, but you don't want it too huge, because any connections or anything like that, if you notice, like even a connection that's for the cable, the transfer cable, is quite flush, and that's so you don't have any wiggle or leeway or anything. And this is actually turning out pretty good as the deeper I get. So if I just keep doing this, I know I keep saying I'm going to go do my Dremel tool, but that's all up to your preference. Yeah, there we go. So we're getting there. And I am nicking the back here a little bit, but it's not too bad. If you try to cut it on the angle that the actual shape of the micro USB, I keep forgetting the name of it, you'll start getting it. So see how it's almost going right in there? So let's see if we can line that right up. So yeah, so you still have quite a bit of room that you have to cut out. So it looks like I need to shave away a little bit more right here on the outer edge. So we're just going to shave away more of that. I'm just going to keep doing this with the knife. And you guys can just skip ahead. I put links in the description if you want to just skip this part. Or if you want to watch me struggle, you can watch me struggle. It's up to you. So the links are down there. The subscribe button's down there. You can click that too if you haven't been to my channel. And the main reason why I wanted this is because I want to see if it'll work with my capture card. As I heard that capture cards are finicky with this mod, and some work and some don't. And I just got a cheap $20 capture card that does work. I tested it out with my Nintendo Switch, so I got that down there pretty good. And it looks like we still have too much. So the PCB, there's a little piece of PCB still there that keeps touching. It looks like I have it deep enough, but I need to shave off a little bit more on the outer edge. But it's getting pretty nice and flush, so let's... And you can take off as much as you want, but don't take off too much, because you can't put it back on. I guess there's always the super glue method if you wanted to fill it in with super glue after. Or not super glue, hot glue. But yeah, there we go. So that looks like it's deep enough. I don't think we need to go any further. So I didn't even have to use my Dremel. And it doesn't look too bad. It's not too shabby. And let's see if we put this on. Yeah, that's pretty flush. There's just a little bit of a gap right there. But that's not bad, honestly, for using just a little knife. And as long as that closes, that means that you should be good to go. So now let's get to the installation process. So I'm gonna kind of tidy up all these shards. I've got a can of air, and I'm just gonna blow out the inside of the shell. So now all the shards are all gone. And then I'm gonna clean the inside of my screen. I'm not really caring about using the screen for this anyways, but I want it to kind of look as original as possible still, because this was the original Game Boy Advance that I always wanted one of these when I was younger, because my buddy had one and I had the SP, which the SP is great, don't get me wrong, but I don't remember if I had the good model or like the AGS01 or 001, or was it 101? I don't remember. But anyways, I know there was two different models of the SP. I have the good model of the SP right now. I didn't know that I had that. I bought it at a Goodwill, or at actually a thrift store. It was Value Village, and I got it for, I think it was like 20 bucks or something at Value Village. And this was like a few years ago, before everything was going on and everybody was getting into their hobbies again. And I've always loved retro games. I have a Game Gear that I'm gonna try to fix up as well. I got parts for it from Handheld Legend, and you can go check them out. The link is in the description as well. I'm not associated with the company, but I do have affiliates with them. and the links are in the description for some of the items that I have purchased. As you can see in my other videos, I use the Gameboy IPS mod. So let's get into it. So let's put the shell aside for now. And we want to work with this screen. So it's good that the screen is out right now because we have to work with this ribbon cable. And according to the pictures that I saw, this ribbon cable has to go in. So see how the PCB is sitting this way? The PCB board should sit resting over top of here. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I just see these connections right here, these are just all solder points for the actual cartridge. I'm going to take some Kapton tape because I don't want that PCB to touch any of those. And I'm going to put this over top. Have that right there. Make sure you don't put too much because you don't want to cover up any of your pads or anything. And one quick thing I'm going to do first. So right here, I'm going to try to point it out. There's an SO1 and an SO2 pad right here. And you're going to have to solder those wires to that. So pre-tin those, and then we'll solder the wires to them. So I got my tin, got my soldering gun. I got a new soldering gun recently. I'm not the best at soldering yet, but I am learning more and more. I've had a soldering gun since I was a kid, and I used to work with a lot of other smaller electronics when I was younger, but I never really understood how soldering, well, I understood how soldering worked, but never understood if you're supposed to touch the pad first and then push the solder. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm going to pre-tin these wires. I know that much. And then one wire is going to go, so I'm going to move this way. And that feels like it's pretty good. Not bad for not being a professional. So basically pre-tinning is just getting the solder off the gun and putting it onto the wire. So you can't really see it on camera there. I'm not using this crazy camera or anything. But if you got it on there and you can feel that it's on there, and as you can see, this one's missing a speaker right now. I have the speakers that came from the same company actually, and I'm not going to do that in this video. I'm just going to get this all done. So we're going to look at this ribbon cable that I was talking about a few minutes ago, and the original ribbon cable goes in this way into the motherboard, so with the prongs facing upwards. So I'm going to assume this ribbon cable, based off of the picture, yeah, it pops right in there. And then you can push your tabs down. Sorry, that's not the screwdriver that came with it. I'm just going to use the screwdrivers that came with it. And push those down, get them seated in there. And then, let's see, where's that? Oh, right here. So this is going to sit right here. I'm going to assume it's not going to go that way. Well, yeah, it would go this way. So it's going to go underneath the board. So this is where your Kapton tape could come in handy again. So if you want to grab a little bit of Kapton tape is basically a heat resistant tape to cover any connections like I just did there, so that they don't touch each other, and to hold stuff down inside your motherboard or your motherboard, I guess. You can get it from Amazon. And I'm going to hold that down. And okay, so there are 2 points right here, S01 and S02. I was just looking at that because I didn't know if it was, it was on this side. So I'm going to put some solder on that. It kind of looks like there's already solder on there. Maybe this company already gets that ready. So I'm just gonna, I pre-soldered that. So yeah, you can kind of see it, S01, S02. And I'm gonna place this right here. So yeah, this is gonna go into the bottom. So let's put this piece into the bottom and flip this around so you guys can see it. And these pop right out. Just slide them out. Try not to touch any of the contacts or the resistors or anything like that on the PCB too much. Okay, no. There we go, that's right in there. And let's bend this up. So yeah, it does look like they kind of pre-bent this for me. And maybe this is just an extra ribbon cable. But that's bent nicely there. And don't bend it too much, but that looks pretty good. So now we can test this out while we seat it into the case and everything, or the shell. And all right, that looks good. So that's all nice. And let's pull that out. Make sure not to rip on it or anything. And now we got to figure out how this is going to go, because we need to have the screen back. Oh, the screen's going to go this way, so I'm going to assume, I'm going to look at the prongs off cam for a second. And if you lift up on the little tabs, you'll be able to, like, if you don't know anything about boards, you can see inside, well, you can't really see it, but on the bottom is the prongs, and this is the connections on the top, which is the copper looking side. So let's put this in here. And you'll know that it's nicely in there if you can't push on it too much more. Let's try to, there we go. So make sure that that's all the way out. Get this in there. And don't try to shove it or force it. What I've learned, because I used to do a lot of cell phone repairs and modifications to cell phones, is that forcing anything is just going to damage it. So that looks good. It looks like it's in there. You'll know if you turn it on and the screen just kind of flickers or it doesn't turn on properly. So let's slide that down. Okay. So that's just going to rest like that. I am going to clean that off in a second, but firstly, we got to attach the wires to the proper spots. So S02 is at the bottom one and S01 is at the top one. So maybe let's do it this way. Yeah, that'll work. And you'll see the writing. You could probably see it earlier. I'm gonna heat that and hopefully, yes. And there we go. So that's on there. And then these wires, you could ever so nicely just put them behind and Kapton tape it again so that they don't move. And I really like this stuff ever since I discovered it. I've seen it in a lot of videos, and I never knew really what it was at first, and it's very helpful. Okay, so I'm just going to double check my connections. The wires seem like they're connected still. And then I'm going to clean off my screen a bit, because I can see a couple fingerprints there. So just put your hand behind, and don't put a lot of pressure, just ever so gently. Then we're going to drop this display in here. Try to line it up with the original position that it was supposed to go in. Don't force it. Again, I'm going to emphasize not to force anything. And then let's try. So the screen's in. Now we got to try to line up the HDMI with its little puzzle piece, as I called it. And you have a little bit of leeway here, so the Kapton tape didn't really stay there too much. So yeah, you do have a lot of leeway, which is good. And if you want to push that down, do not force it again. And we need to put our membranes back in. So this is going to be a hard part, so hold that in there. And we'll get our membranes going. So just hold the HDMI. The ribbon cable right here is going to be holding everything else. So let's get that in there. The LED plug is in there. And we got A, which goes on the top. B is the bottom. And I never remember this way. So put that in there. So this is going to be kind of probably a pain in the butt when I go back into this and you do the speaker. But we have those membranes in, which is good. And that's nice and flush. If I keep these wires from touching, those are just the speaker wires. And you'll know if it's really good if everything is still kind of flush and good to go. I'm going to hold this piece right here, grab my Phillips screwdriver. My screws are in a little container over here. So there's the one screw. Okay. And as soon as we screw this motherboard down, we'll be good to go because we won't have to hold anything anymore. And then we can put the back on, put the batteries in, and test out the screen, make sure the screen works. Okay, so that's in there. That looks pretty good. That feels pretty solid. And oh, I also forgot to tell you guys, there was an HDMI or micro HDMI to female HDMI adapter as well inside the it was just all separate, but basically this just goes in here, and then your HDMI cable will plug into that. So I don't want to wreck anything. Let's put this back on. Let's just leave that out for a second. You don't need those yet. So the back's on. Everything seems flush and good. We got some good old energizers. And if the screen comes on, yeah, screen came on. That is a good sign. So I don't have the power switch in there, so I'm gonna, where is my plastic spudger? Just slid the power off, as you can see. And then the moment of truth. I'm gonna show you guys my monitor. I'm only gonna plug it into my monitor right now because I am in my office. And then I'll do an update if it works with my capture card. So right. Nope, right. I always get these backwards when I'm doing it upside down. No pun intended. There we go. And left. The big thing is remembering to put all your membranes back in after. I've had it where I've put everything back together a couple times, not just for this, but for other things like phones and other consoles. And I'm not going to put the screws back in mine because... Actually, I'm going to put the top screws in just to hold in the... I painted my screws just because I wanted them to be white. I don't know why. Well, it was because I only had white paint that is good for metal. And these screws were pretty gross looking when I bought this. I got this thing for 60 bucks a couple weeks ago. Knowing that, actually no, I got it for $40. This one was 40 bucks because the speaker didn't work and the guy wasn't including all of the games that he said he was including when he had it in his ad. But whatever, his loss. So that turns on. Great. Let's get a game. I just have my 369 and 1 just sitting here. It's usually the one I bring with me. So whenever you go buy a console, make sure to bring a game with you. Make sure all the buttons are working still. So the main moment of truth is to plug this into the monitor. So I'm going to put my camera onto the monitor and we'll be right back. Actually, no. I'm going to plug this in first. So I have it into my HDMI and my monitor has DVI out or in. So let's plug this in and then I'm going to show you the monitor. All right, so this is pretty awesome. It popped up right away and it is pretty fast when you plug it in and out. The cable is kind of loose feeling. You might want to get maybe a longer HDMI to micro HDMI cable because the cable itself kind of, if you can see here, it does have a little bit of a bend to it. But you can't really see that. It's a little blurry. But let's see. Let's do Mario Kart. And like I said, there's no sound because the speaker on this one is gone. But let's test out how quick the game actually runs. And this is actually pretty sweet. I like this. And I know you can play, emulators and stuff like that, but I like the Gameboy Advance controller or console. And yeah, this is how you install the micro HDMI to HDMI for your Game Boy Advance. This is DNA Mobile Gaming. This is Mario Kart, and it's on the big screen from your Game Boy Advance to HDMI to your monitor or your computer or your capture card, which is what I want to do. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Comment below if you have any questions. This was actually not too bad of an installation if you look at the pictures and watch my guide. Take care.